All right, guys, today we're going to be starting chapter 3, and we're going to be talking about inequalities and their graphs. And so I want to just do a quick video to give you some examples of what you're going to be seeing on your practice. And so remember, with inequalities, it's basically just like equations. It's just we've got a couple of rules that we've got to talk about. Specifically, let's talk about graphing these inequalities. And so I want to start with this number 9 that you see right here. It says y is less than. Remember, if you have trouble remembering these, let me just write this right down here. If you think about a number line, we're going to be using a number line a lot. If you think about the numbers that go this direction, let's go ahead and put us a 0 because a lot of people, they like to have that 0 there, and it's fine. So if we look at this, when we go to the left, notice our numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? They keep getting more and more negative. And so that is actually a very good indication of the fact that this is less than. Okay, so if you can just think about a number line, then you can remember which one means which. Okay, and then if you notice when you go this way, your numbers are greater. So this is actually greater than. So it's a great way to remember it. I know in grade school probably you were taught to alligator eats the bigger number and all that kind of stuff. When you get to where you've got variables in here, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, as far as that particular part. So that's the reason I wanted to kind of use this to help you to see that this direction is less than, this direction is greater than. We also deal with things like less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. Okay, so you're going to see those as well. So again, it's the same exact symbol here. The only difference is it's got this equal sign here with it as well. So if you remember, and I know you guys have graphed these before, but again, just taking nothing for granted. Let's just kind of take a look at it and make sure. So when you're graphing inequalities, again, we're going to start with that number line. Why not? And in this case, I'll go ahead and just do a -2 here and a 0 and a 2, for example. Now, here's the great thing. You're not going to have to graph really anything. You're just going to have to choose the correct graph. So you're going to have to know what it should really look like. But other than that, you're not going to have to draw anything, which is great for you. But again, in my case, I'm going to have to draw it. So we've got y is less than -2. So let's talk about a few things. First of all, we know the -2 has to be a part of the equation. So this right here, this number has to be a part of it. But one of the rules that we need to talk about is if you have less than or greater than, no equal than, no equal to symbols there, just less than or greater than, then we're going to use an open circle for that. And the reason we do that is because we're saying my number needs to be less than -2. It can't include -2, but it needs to be less than -2. So that's the reason that you use an open circle, okay? If it is less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, then you're going to use a closed circle because you are saying it can be -2. It could also be less than -2. So you are including that. So that's why when you include it with that equal sign, then you are going to make it a solid. And again, another way to really think about this is if you got a line under it, then it needs to be solid. Okay, so that's our first indication right there. We have y is less than -2. So I know at -2, I'm going to put an open circle because this is the less than symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and put my open circle right there. And it's telling me that y is less than -2. Well, if I put another number over here, let's say this is -3. Is -3 less than -2? Well, of course it is. If somebody is $3 in the hole, they're more in the hole than somebody that's $2 in the hole. So I'm going to shade it this way. And so what you're going to have to do on your practice is you're going to have to choose the correct graph. And this would be the correct graph for that one. Let's try another one real quick, and then I want to show you something else before we move on. So let's look at number 10. Number 10 has t is greater than or equal to, notice that equal sign underneath it, greater than or equal to 4. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my graph. And I'm going to go ahead and put some other numbers in here just for fun. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put a -4 over here. Put a 0. We'll put a 4 there. Okay? So now let's think about what goes where. Well, I know that the 4 has to be involved, so it's right there. I see a greater than or equal to sign. So if it's greater than or equal to, then I know it has to be a closed dot because it's going to include 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put a closed dot in for 4. And then right here, I notice I've got the line underneath it, and it's pointed to the right. So that means any number t is going to be any number greater than or equal to 4. So if I put 5 right there, I know that 5 would be included. So that's going to be shaded that direction. Now let's look at one more. And I kind of messed up my space here, but that's okay. We can still work with it. Number 13 says negative 3 is greater than or equal to f. So let's go ahead and draw a graph. We know negative 3 is going to be involved and 0. We'll just put a positive 3 over on this side just for good measure. Okay. So we see that there's a greater than or equal to. So I know that that's a closed circle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put a closed circle right there. And then this says I'm going to shade this way, right? Because that's what we did over here. Here we shaded to the left, which was the direction that this said. Here we shaded to the right, which is the direction this one said. So I know that I need to shade this way, right? Sure. Sounds like a good plan, Mr. H. So now let's just think about this for just a second. You notice that I went through 0. That means 0 is one of my solutions. Well, let me just think about this for just a second. Is negative 3 greater than or equal to 0? Is that a true statement? Negative 3 greater than or equal to 0. Is negative 3 greater than 0? Absolutely not. So what I want to caution you about is just graphing these without making sure of one thing. And that one thing is that you make sure that your variable is on the left if you're going to use this sign to know which direction to shade. And so here's what we need to do with this one right here. And I'm going to move right over here just so we have more room. You notice it's negative 3 greater than or equal to f. So what I need to do is I need to get the f over here, and I need to get the negative 3 over there. And so in order to do that, I can switch places with those. But the only thing I have to do is I have to switch my inequality sign. Okay? So this is the same. It's the equivalent as that. But the reason it's important for me to do that is because if I want to use this to graph by, I have to make sure that my variable's on the left. Okay, so now let's graph this again and see if it makes sense. So again, I'm going to put my negative 3, I'm going to put a 0, and I'm going to put a 3. Now I know that because this line's underneath it, it's going to be a closed dot. And now my arrow is telling me that I need to shade something that is left of this. So now we know that a number that's over here is negative 4. Well, is negative 4 less than or equal to negative 3? Yes, that's a true statement. So this is the proper graph for this particular equation here. This is not correct. If you wrote that down as a note, that's okay. Just put you a big X through it so that you know I do not want to do that, okay? So you've got to make sure that you have this variable on the left-hand side. All right, the other task that you're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to take an inequality and you're going to be asked to write the inequality statement for that particular graph. And so let's look at number 15. We'll just do a couple of these, and then I'll let you go for today and let you finish your practice. One of the first things we notice is where is our open circle? Okay, our open circle is at 1. So I know that 1 has to be involved some way, somehow. And just because I want to use my graph to be able to try to help me fill out my inequality statement, I'm going to put a variable over here. We'll just call it x because we like to pick on x for some reason. And then what should go right here? What is the inequality symbol that should go right here? Well, this is an open circle, so we know that it's either going to be less than or greater than. And so because we put our variable on the left-hand side, we know that we're talking about all numbers that are less than. See how this arrow is going this direction? We know that we're talking about all numbers that are less than this positive 1. So I know that this should be my inequality statement. And again, I could test it. For example, you notice my line goes through 0. So is 0 less than 1? Well, of course it is. So this would be the inequality statement that I would need for that particular graph. Let's look at one more. Number 16. So number 16 this time, now where is my closed circle? My closed circle is at negative 2. So I know that negative 2 is going to be involved. I'm going to go ahead and put that to the right-hand side because I want to keep my variable on the left-hand side. This time we'll use y. We'll leave x alone for a second. And we're going to say y. And now am I going to say less than less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. What am I going to do here? Well, I know I've got a closed dot, so it either has to be greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Am I talking about numbers that are greater than or equal to -2, because this is the part that's shaded, or would it be less than or equal to? Well, again, the part that's shaded, if you notice, is going this direction, and there is my arrow. There's my sign that tells me what really needs to go there. And so I know that y is going to be greater than or equal to, right? Because I've got a closed circle, y is going to be greater than or equal to -2. And again, I could choose a value like 0. Is 0 greater than or equal to -2? Sure, it is. So I know that I have written my equation properly. And that's exactly what your practice is going to be. It's going to be as easy as that. So hopefully this has been helpful to you, and we'll see you on the next video.